All right, folks, we are ready to start. I am so excited because this man has been a great man who has had Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch living on Sesame Street for a very, very long time. I'd like to welcome him and his wife up on stage, Caroll and Deb Spinney. Give them a round of applause. We're so excited to have them here at Niagara Falls. And I understand it's their anniversary today, too. So we're going to sing. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
There we go.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you? Here's a seat for you. You can sit right here next to your husband. You can be a rose between two thorns.
I fell down about 3 months ago. I got a concussion.
Oh.
It's getting better.
It is. It's scary though.
Well, we're glad you're still with us. So, and the two of you are going to share a microphone. I only have just the one here for myself, and we're going to get the ball rolling with the guests already lining up, which I love. But I'm going to start things off first, Mr. Spinney, on about how you came about on creating, of course, Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch.
Well, I've been doing puppets since I was 8 years old. I gave my own show, Elbow Theater. I had paid 5 cents for a monkey puppet, which I still own. I found it a few months ago, and I don't know where I put it. I lost it again.
Can you have a little louder?
Okay, well, I'll take it out. Should we take it out?
Yeah, you should take it off. Take it off the mic if you want. Off the stand.
Here we go.
Okay. How's this better? Okay.
So you got a nickel monkey sock puppet, you said?
It's just a hand puppet of a monkey with whose the hole in his head where you put your finger was kind of big, so it never occurred to me to stuff it. So his head is made out of some kind of composition material. Anyway, I had that and a stuffed green snake, which my mother made for Christmas for us, because we didn't have much money, so she made stuff for us.
Nice.
She was very creative, very artistic.
Awesome.
I'm an artist. I got my talent from her, and my son and one of my daughters is also they're artists, and they're both starting to make some money at it. Even though they're in their 40s, it's taken a while. It's hard to break into art to make a living.
Awesome. Well, we're glad that you've created the art of Sesame Street with Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch. And we're going to open the floor here. And please say your name, where you're from, and your question, please.
All right.
He's taking a selfie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mark from Montreal. Happy anniversary, first of all.
Thank you.
43 years.
Wow. In the honeymoon capital of the world.
When we found we were coming here on our anniversary.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Because we didn't have here the first anniversary.
We haven't been here since we made Follow That Bird, which was in 1984, and it was in Toronto. So we went over to the falls then, but that was the last time we were here. So
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Mark, what's
The
your
question is it really true that Ernie and Bert is a couple?
No, it's not true. A minister, I think he was hoping it was true, but he said, well, they live together, so they must be a couple. But actually, they're undetermined age because Bert often saying, Ernie, you haven't put your toys away. But on the other hand, Bert has a identical twin who is a traveling salesman.
Right.
And he goes, "Arr."
That's how it was. Bart the traveling salesman.
And his favorite song is Rubber Ducky.
Certainly, yes.
Okay, thank you. Happy anniversary, by the way, again.
Thank you, Mark. All right, next, please.
Natalie from Cambridge, Ontario. What was the inspiration for the voices for Big Bird and Oscar?
Well, Jim, when he saw me doing my own show, and I belong to the Puppeteers of America, which if somebody wants to break into puppetry, I do advise them to become a member of the Puppeteers of America, and you can find them on the internet, Puppeteers of America. And that's what I belong to. I don't think I'd be here if I hadn't joined them, because they had opened the doors for you.
Where he got discovered.
So Jim Henson said he liked what I was trying to do, because everything went wrong with my show. I thought it was a disaster, and now I'll never. And I knew he was in the audience. I was always hoping I'd get a job with him, because he was the ultimate puppet show as far as I'm concerned. Puppets, and
The voice was very different.
so yes, as he built had them built around me. I started asking, Jim, what am I going to play it like? What's he like? Is it a parrot? Or is it talks like? And so he said, well, I picture him like Mortimer Snerd. Those who are old enough remember Mortimer Snerd.
Or even, he said Disney's pal Goofy.
Yeah, and that he's kind of a big, goofy guy. He told me he'd always wanted to build a goofy, silly bird. Well, so I played it that way initially. Like, oh, here I am, a big bird. So but as we were doing the show, I realized that wasn't anything very useful to our show. Why we were trying to teach children stuff. And so one day a script came along that Big Bird wanted to go to a child he saw little kids going into a daycare center. And he said, why can't I go? He made a big foot stomping tantrum. And I said, I think if I played him, not like he's a 38-year-old helpless, stupid bird, I think it might be better if I play him like he's a child, just learning to read. And so I said, he's 4.5, and he couldn't read. He didn't know the alphabet or anything initially. That's when they wrote the song Abkadefki Jekyll Monochros Tuberxes, which Big Bird couldn't say. Wow, what a remarkable word! Abkadefki Jekyll Monochros Tuberxes. It's the most remarkable word I've ever seen. It's nice that all the songs, initially we sang lots of songs like Octopus Garden of the Beatles, things like that. But then they started hiring writers that could write music. And we had a great music director, Joe Raposo. And we started making our own music. And it was Oscar I had never played a voice that I had a kind of a light college boy kind of voice, and I didn't know what I was going to use for a voice for Oscar, and I could do an imitation of Jim Henson's rough characters like, "Hi, I'm a Muppet, you know." And, so I got the cab for the final audition of what I was going to do, and a taxi driver who was probably from the Bronx said, "Where to, Mac?" That freaking Lindsay, the governor, I know he was the mayor, he's ruining this city, there's trash everywhere. So I liked his voice. I said, "Where to, Mac? Where to, Mac?" And I said, that'll be the voice. So I was going to see Jim Henson, the very next person you can see. And there he was with the puppet builder. And The first Oscar was awful. I couldn't get my hand in it properly. It wasn't made very well. And they made the trash can so awkward that I had to use my left hand, but it was a right-hand glove inside. So his mouth was all crooked. So. Yeah, so I said, how should we do this? I said, well, I'll get it ready best I can in the trash can. But I found it was so awkward I couldn't get in it properly. But I said, go over and knock on the trash can and Oscar will come out. So he bangs on the top, clang, clang. And Oscar pops up and says, who are you? He said, I'm Jim Henson. Well, what do you want? I want to hear what you can do. What's your voice? Well, here it is. Whether you like it or not, this is what I'm going to do. So, Oscar, I got an attitude immediately. And Jim said, that'll do fine.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
You mentioned how earlier you weren't sure about the characters. Well, why is it that the puppets changed over the years so much? Like, Oscar started off being orange and then green, and then Big Bird, he changed a lot, and Mr. Snuffleupagus started off with these glowing orange eyes. And
Yeah. Well, initially, Oscar has changed very little other than his color. At the beginning, I did a presentation at Carnegie Hall that year, where they had the Emmys, and I gave an Emmy to Burt Bacharach for his music. And he didn't do music for Sesame Street, but he was really good. And so, as Big Bird, I worked with Dick Cavett. I had no problem with him that time. I had some real problems with him later on. And he steals lines. So.
I think that Emmy job got you a job in Hollywood.
Yeah, because Big Bird was very funny. And I kept calling him Mr. Cavett. Mr. Cabbage. It went over very well. And the next thing I knew, I got a phone call from the producers of the Flip Wilson show. It was the first time an African American had a nighttime, primetime TV show, and he was very funny. Remember he did, was it?
Geraldine.
Geraldine.
Oh, yes.
The devil made me do it.
That's when they shipped you out, Oscar, I guess. And
I took him out of the box and he was green. I said,
he had been orange the first year, so.
well, I said, what happened? They said, well, Jim decided he didn't like it being orange. Because it was when he first started me with the job, he said, I'm going to make it purple Grouch. So he's never been purple.
Jim changed his mind a lot back then.
So then he stayed green. I like the green. He has a better face than he used to have when he was orange. He looked evil.
Yeah. And of course, Big Bird, over the years, as you know, if you see the early shows, he's got hardly a feather above his eyeballs. It doesn't look like there's room for a brain up there. But now he's very,
It's the same puppet, the same head as I started with, and it was so hideous looking. I was unhappy with the way he looked. And
he's pretty now, I think. Yeah.
so
They evolved, really. Is that's
but what they did is learn how to use feathers better.
Thank you very much for your question.
thank you. We all grew up with you.
Next, please.
Hello, my name is Darren. I'm here from Ottawa, and thank you again, Carol, for singing with me yesterday. I can't thank you enough for that experience.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So I can see that Oscar's not with us here today, but I'm hoping maybe you can answer on his behalf. Over the past year in the Muppet world, there's been a lot of relationship drama with Mrs. Piggy and Kermit, Gonzo and Camilla, Floyd and Janice. I'm just wondering, what is the status of Oscar's relationship with Grungetta? Are they still an item? Are they on hiatus? Or do you know what that's going on?
Oscar hasn't seen Grungetta saw her once in the last 5 years.
They're no longer really a couple.
They're not really an item anymore, apparently.
The relationship was trash. That's what made it work.
That's good.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Aaron.
Next, please.
Hello, Caroll.
Hello.
Ryan from Montreal. All the celebrities who appear on Sesame Street, who has been your favorite one that appeared on, that has been appeared on Sesame Street?
Celebrities, did you say?
Yes.
Oh, that's an easy one.
What was that? What was that?
What's your favorite celebrity that you've worked with, Francesca?
Oh, I think it's Waylon Jennings. Because Waylon, I first met him when making the movie Follow That Bird, which we made in Toronto. Yeah. And what's the name?
What is it, Picton?
Picton, yeah. We made some scenes there too.
Yeah. That's where we met.
So, and Waylon had, but I had watched occasionally the
Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard. Here's a guy who said, he'd say, he's a narrator in his Texas accent. He said, now, Cooter doesn't know that Daisy's locked in his closet. He's going in the wrong place.
As well.
And but anyway, I spent 2 days in the truck singing "Ain't No Road Too Long." I'm not much of a country singer, but
That was your first country song.
I did win a Golden Country Singer Award on Golden Country Hits show, and I sang a duet with
Crystal Gale.
and so that song was songs all around whenever you need them. It's a really good song. It won a Grammy.
Yeah.
But the guy who writes it gets the Grammy.
But Waylon is definitely
The one
on top
that-
of our list. Yeah.
If you want to make a lot of money, learn to be a songwriter.
Yeah.
Because some of the songs that I recorded made $50,000 rather quickly, and I made $360.
Oh. Thank you for your question.
Hello, Mr. Spinney. I'm Owen. I'm from Niagara Falls, and I have a question about the Challenger space shuttle. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I watched the documentary. You were filming an episode of Sesame Street, and they said, "Here, let's watch." What was your reaction when you saw it explode in the air?
Well, I was asked back in, year was that?
86.
Something like
I
that.
think 86.
I was asked about a year before, and if I would want to orbit the Earth. And
Be the first civilian to orbit the Earth with a space shuttle.
but I didn't always was a civilian. I was a sergeant in the Air Force. But anyway,
You said yes.
I said yes. But then they found out there was no room in the very cramped space shuttle. They're not very much. That thing's big, but there's not a lot of room in it for the people. And so there were going to be 5 other people on it with me. And so I couldn't go.
Big Bird wouldn't fit.
I thought of a way to, I was going to suggest they could put him in the vacuum of the loading area, and because the vacuum wouldn't hurt him, unless I was in it. My eyes would pop.
But we also realized too that even if he did fit, if you're in the capsule, you know how you see all the pictures of them floating up there, everything is floating, so Big Bird's feathers would have lifted up and you'd see underneath and into Big Bird. So it wasn't going to work no matter what.
Unless they glued all the feathers
That
down.
would be tough. But anyways, of course it was, you know, a good thing for Caroll that he couldn't fit because that was the Challenger. And Christy McAuliffe was asked to go up as a teacher to be the first civilian in space, and of course it blew up. So when you watch that on Sesame Street, everybody just cried, you know. And plus he had the feeling of, oh my God, I was supposed to be on that, you know. So it was.
Well, we watched it go up and we saw it explode. We watched it on television. It was on NBC. And when it went up after 7 minutes, it was supposed to drop its extra tanks, and then we're just then there's still some fuel left in the spaceship itself. But
You could tell right away that it wasn't right.
and so all of a sudden, when it exploded, and all the pieces went downwards, nothing went up. I said, "Oh my God!" And they said, "No, it's just separation." I said, "Yeah, but something continues to go up the ship. It just everything just bluey. It went down." And we thought of these poor people, and I got a letter from all the astronauts. And, one of the producers asked to borrow the record. I said, "This is the original. I can't let you take it. So no, please, we'll give it right back to you." I never saw it again. And I had their signatures. It would have been nice if your signatures had it. So anyway, what happened was they all died, of course, and we were in shock, and the whole country was too, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
Happy anniversary, Mr. and Mrs.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marissa from Liverpool, New York, and I was recently watching a clip of the episode where Mr. Cooper died and Big Bird's reaction, and I was wondering what that was like to film that scene.
Well, it was, they decided, Will Lee, who played Mr. Hooper, who we truly loved, is a sweet old man. He wasn't that old, I think he was only in his late 60s. And, but we could tell he wasn't well, but he would never tell anybody that he was fighting cancer. And so we did lose him, and then they decided what they do, what they say to the children. Why, if Mr. Hooper isn't there anymore, we could have him retire and say he could move to Florida. So that's what a lot of people do in New York. And so then they said, no, let's face the fact that children don't know anything about death, and maybe it'll be a good, we could make a good story out of it. And we did. And a man named Norman Stiles was our head writer. He wrote a lovely script. And so when we taped it, there were the 8 humans and Big Bird involved in that story. We didn't use the other puppets very much. Oscar, of course, I did both. But we didn't use many of the puppets on the show regularly. And so we all prepared, we memorized the scripts and went through it. And when Big Bird said, "But it's so sad," Elena Reed Brooks burst into tears. She played Olivia. She was a photographer, and she left the show shortly after that.
Everybody had real tears when they were doing that scene. And they really, well, I believe they taped it, twice, right? But you really didn't have to tape it twice because it was perfect the first time through.
So they showed the first take,
Yeah.
and we always call it, "Oh, good, one take theater."
But it's a great tribute to Mr. Cooper.
I got away with even referring to him as Mr. Pooper.
Thank you very much for your question. Next, please.
I am Tony from Ottawa, and I was just wondering, you had mentioned the show where Jim had found you before. Did you ever that was also mentioned in the documentary. Had you ever had a chance to actually perform that show in full at any subsequent date, or
Perform what show?
the show where Jim found Caroll?
The show that
Carol.
Yeah.
I had built a show. I'm an animator. I did animation. And I wanted to create a new medium where you could mix animation with puppets who would operate in front of the rear screen projection. And they could be the same characters, but change from animation to live puppet. Well, I gave that show only once. The first time it went perfectly in Binghamton, New York. And the second time was at the Puppet Festival, which was in Salt Lake City. And so
That was the last time you were performing?
but unfortunately, my Ford van caught a fire, and everything all burned up.
So that sounds like a very quite clever setup.
So it was the end of it.
For any other puppeteers or something, somebody try that. That sounds really cool. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your question. Next, please.
Hi, Dan from Brampton. Hello again. Hi. One of the Muppet characters I thought had one of the most interesting designs was Bruno the Trash Man. And I only really ever recall him speaking maybe once in the whole series. Did he ever really get any extended dialogue that maybe I hadn't seen?
Bruno. Well, I used to do a lot of live performances with symphony orchestras. And I introduced Oscar to it as well as Big Bird. But we needed a way to get Big Bird out on stage.
No, Oscar.
Oscar.
Yeah.
I could walk. Big Bird, I can walk. So I didn't want to walk out carrying him in a bag or
We didn't want the man to be seen.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So I was watching the Gong Show, and I saw a very clever woman doing a puppet show, and she was the baby in the baby carriage, and the clown that was pushing it was the dummy, and she was operating it with her feet, and her head was in a bonnet. And when
Really good.
it was very clever.
It's very got the
So
idea.
I said, well, what I could do is I could have them make a Bruno, we'll call it Bruno, and have him be a trash man, he pick up the trash can, and he with fake arms holding the trash can on Bruno. And my hands were, against his belly he was holding the trash can, and I had Oscar in that trash can, and I would pop him up. And so I was kind of doing two characters at once.
It was a great illusion. Really.
Oh, yeah.
Did
Very
Bruno talk
convincing.
very much, really?
He didn't talk very much unless I had, if Oscar was up, I didn't have any way to control his
Right,
mouth.
because his hands would be coming up with Oscar.
Right.
Bruno's back here.
Okay.
But I guess if Oscar is in the can, then that, what was it, a string that you could pull or pull down Bruno's straw?
Yeah, it would just made a thin fishing line, but it's strong enough to pull down into his mouth. And
He did talk a little bit.
somebody accused me of hating people from Italy. He said, well, everybody knows, since his name is Bruno, that he would be Italian. He said, they're the only ones with the name Bruno. I said, ding dong, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Bruno is a popular name in both, all the way from Russia to all the Slavic countries,
Yep.
and Romania, Bulgaria, Italy, and it's a very popular name.
That was a silly
Bruno Mars, for instance,
Yeah.
is a singer.
Yeah.
Bruno does not exist anymore. He deteriorated.
I read that, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's such a shame.
One day I was on set and I said, hey, how come I never get to do Bruno anymore? It's the one Muppet I created.
Yeah.
And
He's gone.
he said, well, he doesn't, he disintegrates. It's that type of plastic, it's like foam, rubber,
That's a shame.
but it turns to powder after a while.
Well,
Particularly
he,
since they kept it as syrup, it was over 100 degrees.
That's not good. Thank you.
yeah, well, during the time that he was there, he was definitely a very faithful helper to Oscar. Yeah, he did a
Thank you
great
very
job.
much for your question.
It was fun to do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, I'm Sean from London, Ontario. Thank you, first of all, happy anniversary. And thank you for all of the contributions Sesame Street and the characters you provided gave me as in my formative years growing up. I'm really much appreciated. Big Bird's naive, optimistic, almost Pollyanna view of the world was very uplifting, and I appreciate him giving sesame seeds and cranberries to the Swedish chef and the Muppet Family Christmas very much. Thank you. My question maybe will be better answered by Dad. I would love to have been a fly on the wall on some of these staff parties that you have as puppeteers and people behind the scenes, and I'm very curious what sorts of shenanigans you would get into when not on camera as a whole cast of imaginative, creative, and fun-loving puppeteers.
There's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't put on TV that's at the rap parties.
They didn't tell the people, don't come with the kids. The Muppets, these are adult Muppets. And,
They're funny.
they were very For instance, they were talking skivvies.
Yeah. And bras. They went to have a whole array of adult underwear. With mouths, like the fly on them. It's very funny.
That's one big Pac-Man. It had how big the bra is.
You're right. There's been some good stuff.
There were some wonderful shows, but then in the later years, they didn't have the money to do it because they used the real cameras of the show to film it, and everybody get a print thing. I only have one thing.
There were a couple of out parties, but they didn't really give it out to anybody because they're just afraid it's going to get out. So
They
yeah, it was
didn't
fun
want to
though.
get on late night TV.
Thank you very much, or YouTube nowadays, yeah. All right.
Hello, my name is Gary from Bradford. I would like to welcome you to Niagara Falls. Oh, Big Bird, how is it with that costume? You get around so easily. It must be very difficult to maneuver.
Grover, you're right.
Mine's so easy. You're just a hand.
By the way, I thought you'd like to know, every year in the winter, I get dry skin and I get a rash on my tummy.
Yeah. And it's called?
And it's called Grover's disease.
I'm so embarrassed. That's so nice, I think.
And by the time April is over, it's faded away again.
Oh, that's good to hear.
It's moist, there's so much more humidity after winter.
Yeah, that must hurt you. Tell me right here. Oh, yeah?
Thank you, Super Grover.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Hi, it's me again. Silly question. When you go to restaurants, do you ever use your Big Bird voice or your other voice to the waitress when they greet you?
Sometimes
you talk the whole time?
If it's a very friendly waiter or waitress, they start joking around with me because they found out who I am. I've probably used the voice because they get a kick out of it. And
Not much though, but
sometimes, if I'm in a situation where Oscar could make a good comment, I'll use him to make a comment, but people, they look at me funny because they don't know I'm using Oscar's voice.
Funny thing is, something funny. You look almost just like Colonel Sanders, and also you're Big Bird. Exactly the same.
I think you're looking good.
Thank you, Mark. Next, please.
I must say that last year we were in Kentucky, and we went to a wonderful show. So 2 years ago.
Yeah.
My friends, they put on the equestrian Olympics, and they had a guy there who was, of course, real Colonel Sanders died some time ago, and this guy was exactly like, so much better than any of the commercials lately, which now they have Norm Macdonald doing it, but not exclusively. They have a bunch of different people doing it, because it's as though they're competing to see who could be most like the real Colonel Sanders. Well, they should get in touch with this guy.
Big Bird should stay away from Colonel Sanders.
I don't think I trust him. I might look good fried.
All right, next.
Hi, Denise from Ajax, Ontario. I think I want to just say thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you on behalf of everyone here.
Thank you.
And I know you were in Miami not too long ago, so I know traveling a lot and takes a lot on your body, so thank you. And thank you for being Big Bird, because as a child growing up, there was a lot of questions about life that we couldn't really talk to our parents about. And Big Bird asked all the right questions, and we got all the right answers. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And whatever happened to Radar?
Radar. He's on one of the beds in our house.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi-ho, Carol. Hi-ho, Deb. Hi-ho, other guy. I'm sorry. I'm Mark. I'm from Burlington, Ontario. This has been like driving me crazy because I never knew the answer, but I heard that there was a trash can fire in Oscar's trash can and you got caught in it, but no one's ever told that story. And I've always wondered, like, what happened that day?
Well, I did it was the first or second year of the story, and the script called for black smoke to come out of a little tin chimney out of the top of Oscar's trash can. And he was producing black smoke, so it'd be annoying. And but the problem is the guy, all the artificial smoke was white, so they wanted black. Well, there's no artificial black smoke machines. This is so polluting. And so this guy had a pie pan filled with oil and chunks of rubber, and it was on a little piece of plywood right over my head. And so it was boiling, and this oil starts to boil. And I said, I'm going to have my head under boiling oil? I don't think so. And they said, no, go ahead. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, action. And all of a sudden I said, and suddenly they put the tin pipe over the flames, and it caused a draft. And they started to really broil and boil. I said, that's dangerous stuff. It's shooting out boiling pieces of oil.
And rubber.
And rubber. And then, so I got out from under it, and the whole unit would move. It was on wheels that wouldn't show. And I could push the trash can and all the stuff around it out. And the floor director said, where are you going? You have to get under there. I said, I'm not getting under that thing for nothing. And so, no more than 2 seconds after I got out from under it, in that quick argument, it exploded. And it said, boiling oil is a liquid, like a sort of a, well, it splattered all over the 123 Sesame Street, the house where Gordon Sousa lived. And the whole wall was bricks, but it was made out of painted canvas. So it took flames. The whole thing was white. And above it is the studios are now 90 years old, Astoria Studios in Queens. And the thing was in flames, and this guy hadn't even brought in a fire extinguisher. So the thing is all in flames, and the flames are going up the side of all the woodwork.
And of course, where he was in the can was completely burnt out.
I would have, all my hair would have been burned off.
Probably would have been killed, actually. Really.
So, the next day I looked for him, he wasn't there anymore. A year later, I'm walking down Broadway, and we were right near where Sesame Street started, on 81st Street and Broadway, in an old movie theater. And I bump into Mr.
Who cares?
That guy, I ran into him, he said, oh, you really caused me to lose my job. I said, I lost my job? You mean I should have stayed under it and burned to death? You're a stupid move, and you didn't even have a fire extinguisher. And furthermore, the reason why he was fired is that you don't have to have any open flames in a TV studio.
That's the fire marshal.
He broke all the rules, and then complained that I caused it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so that was a really close call.
What the heck are they thinking?
The very next time I worked with him, he had to fire up a fire extinguisher, ironically, for a blast of smoke come out of the trash can. And my arm was just touching his. We were wearing short sleeves. But when you fire one of those things, the CO2 comes out. It causes a great, massive negative charge. And it drew all kinds of power through the microphone I was wearing. And my arm touched him, and we both had this huge shock of power through our voice. And they both went stiff as a board. We flew and landed on our backs and our heads. And I said, I don't think I want to work with you anymore.
Thank you for your question.
Oh, thank you.
All right, next there. Come on up, buddy.
Hi, my name is Noam Martin from Niagara Falls, Ontario. How do you speak Big Bird and Oscar at the same time?
Well, that's a very good question. Where's this boy? Are you 9 years old?
I'm 8.
8. Yeah, but generally, the boys your age ask that question more than anything else. And it's a very good question, because I can only run one puppet at a time, generally. And so I pre-record Oscar's voice, and I do Big Bird, and I have one of the other puppeteers. They're all friends of mine, and move Oscar, and and he'll speak at the pre-recorded voice Oscar is recorded. Okay, you turkey, what are you doing near my trash can? And I say, Oscar, don't be so rude. I worked hard to be rude. Don't criticize me. So anyway, stuff like that. Sometimes a lot of scripts would come through where both characters are in the same scene, and it would take a lot of extra time to take. So
you don't see them a lot together, but you do see them together in that way.
That's your last now.
Thank you very much for your question. Very good. We have another question. We only have time for a few more, so.
My name is Alexandria, and I'm Alexandria 1, and I'm from Niagara Falls, and that was my brother who was speaking, and this is my mom who was listening me up. And also, what is Big Bird's greatest fears?
What is Big Bird's greatest fear?
Yes, fear.
Greatest fear for Big Bird.
Thanksgiving.
Colonel Sanders.
I do a lot of hiding in November. And I know that we had a wonderful stage manager. So these guys on set, and he makes sure that all the props and things are in place before we start, and the sets are built, and because we have to change things a lot all the time on the show. So.
The biggest fear of Big Bird. Yeah.
So one time, Chet O'Brien, who was the stage manager, he was one of the famous O'Brien twins. None of us are old enough to remember them, because they were famous in the early 30s on Broadway. And he was married to one of the most famous women in show business, Marilyn Miller.
Yeah.
Not
Nobody here would know this.
none of us are old enough. Well, they had they were roasting a turkey on Halloween, at Thanksgiving, and so somebody said, "Well, the Big Bird's almost cooked," and they had a lot of children.
This is in his house in real life.
So a lot of Irish people, so they had a lot of children. And, the
Big Bird's almost cooked.
Big Bird. And so the children wouldn't eat any turkey. They thought they had cooked Big Bird.
Thank you very much for your question.
I'm Robin from Niagara Falls. My question was, I want to talk about the understudies, Matt Vogel and Eric Jacobson. Eric Jacobson recently I saw him do a few performances, and he's flawless. And I was just I could barely tell the difference. And I was wondering, have you had a big hand in talking to him and studying with him?
Yes. Well, Eric, for years he didn't do many major characters. So he never had a character.
You should let the end feel the buttons in the background.
Yeah. And so if they did some like Fat Blue, would go into Mr. Hoover's store, sit down and order a cup of coffee or something. And
now he does all of Frank Oz's characters, except for
Frank Oz. When Jim Henson died 27 years ago, Frank Oz lost heart with it because he was great. He was close to Jim, and how we all were. He was such a sweet man. You'd like to have met him. It was really great. And
We never thought anybody could do Frank's characters because he has such a unique voice. Even though you can always tell it's Frank,
yep.
you know, but still they're really hard characters to do. And Eric is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the story about I guess everybody probably knows that Matt, for years now, has been in the wings, so to speak, waiting, you know, helping Caroll out with Big Bird. And Caroll handpicked Matt out of a bunch of people who tried out. And we absolutely adore Matt. He's the best.
His last name is Bird in German.
So Matt's just, we adore him. But up until recently, we didn't have anybody who could stand in for Caroll with Oscar. So about a year ago, Sesame Street, we decided, you know, it's time we need to do this. They sent us tapes of 8 performers who were trying out to be the understudy for Oscar. And they didn't tell us who they were. Of course, they were all the guys from Sesame Street. And Caroll got a tape, I got a tape. I think about 8 different people, different producers and directors. They all got the tape on their own, and we all listened on our own, and we had to write who we thought was closest to Oscar. We knew they'd be a good puppeteer because they were Muppeteers with Sesame Street. And we all picked the same person, and that was Eric. And so he's phenomenal. And Caroll has done I wouldn't call it a workshop, but we spent quite a few hours with Eric personally, giving him all the hints and the this is and that's about how you do Oscar. And of course, Eric he's flawless with voices. And he's been studying it really, really hard, because when he first got it, he sounded a lot like him. Now he sounds exactly like him, so he works real hard at it. So we're real proud of him. It's like our children now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have time for one more question. We're very sorry. Caroll and Deb are going to be at the booth, at their location all day. You can get pictures and autographs there and ask your questions there if you have any more questions. And there'll also be photo ops throughout the day as well. So please have that checked out. But our last question for today.
Hello, Caroll. Nice to meet you. Welcome to Niagara. My name is Ray. I'm from London. I have many, many wonderful memories of growing up watching Sesame Street. And I was just wondering, do you have any stories about the trips that the gang took to Hawaii and Mexico?
Well,
New Mexico, sorry.
We haven't. I don't think I've ever had Big Bird in Mexico.
It was in New Mexico when they went to
New Mexico, yeah.
And Hawaii was fun because you got to be 2 weeks in Hawaii. Remember, was that for looking for Snuffy's ancestors?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because sure enough, Snuffy is they used to say the only animals that were from Hawaii were bats, but it turns out they're snuffleupagus.
Yeah, those are fun. Always fun.
All right, well, thank you very much. Let's give a big, huge round of applause to Caroll and Deb Spinney. We're going to be out there again at the station. Thank you very much, guys.